Are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. Fucking suck. I wish they would let me next door so I can spit in your face.
You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?
could never kill me.
Oh, I bet you I could.
Then you should try, John. You really should try, John.
No, I would literally kill you if you spit in my face.
Yeah, let's try that, John.
Literally kill you.
Let's try that, John.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I said I would kill you if
John,
you did some
do you
stupid
think?
shit
Do you,
like that.
so, John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
What's up, everybody? So I'm back again with the third fan request fight. It was DC versus Jon Jones 2. But this one was a little bit more difficult because I had to really jump in to everything that DC and Jon Jones was before this fight, because they had already went one fight before, and to get to the second one is a lot, man. I had to really just dive down and see all the opponents they fought and what led them to the second fight. So I'm going to start with DC, right? DC was already the heavyweight champion in Strikeforce. He comes to the UFC. His very first fight is against Frank Mir at UFC on Fox. The main event was Ben Henderson versus Melendez, right? And DC gets a unanimous decision against Frank Mir. His next fight was UFC 166 against Big Country Roy Nelson. He gets a unanimous decision there. His next fight, UFC 170, he beats Patrick Cummings by TKO. The next fight, UFC 173, that's the fight where he throws up Dan Henderson in the air, single leg, dumps him, beats him everywhere, gets the rear naked submission on Dan Henderson. And that leads up to the very first fight with Jon Jones. UFC 182, Jon Jones, DC. That's when they just don't like each other. They are at each other's throat. They hate each other. Jon Jones wins by decision. And that was January 3rd, 2015. Jon Jones wins. But shortly after, he gets in the accident in Albuquerque. He's driving drunk. He hits a pregnant woman. He flees. He gets arrested. He gets suspended by the UFC. He's out for a while. The title goes vacant. And with that, that's when DC comes back. The title is vacant, so he fights at UFC 187 against Anthony Rumble Johnson for the vacant light heavyweight title. He beats Rumble Johnson by rear naked choke, and that's when Daniel Cormier becomes full-fledged undisputed light heavyweight champion. I know nobody wants to give him the credit, but there's nothing he can do about that. Jon Jones was out. You know, he was suspended. He fucked up, and he fucked up bad. He had to give up the title. So the title is up for grabs. Anthony Rumble Johnson versus Daniel Cormier. Cormier wins by a rear naked choke submission. He's the new full-fledged undisputed champion. He wins. The next title defense is at UFC 192 against Alexander Gustafsson. And this is after the first Gustafsson fight against Jon Jones, where Gustafsson had took Jon Jones to the brink. I mean, it was so close. A lot of people thought Gustafsson won that fight. Jon Jones, afterwards, it came out that he didn't train for that fight. He was partying the whole time. And he still found a way to win. I mean, that's just the special talent that Jon Jones is. This guy can just walk in, not even stretch, and then beat everybody in the gym. He basically didn't train for that fight at all. Gustafsson was whooping his ass for the first 2-3 rounds. Jon Jones roars back, knowing that he's down. He doesn't want to lose his title, and he beats Alexander Gustafsson. And that was an amazing fight. Probably one of the best fights still to this day in the light heavyweight division, outside of DC Jones 2, which I'm leading up to. But DC fights Gustafsson, beats him, split decision. UFC 200. He was supposed to fight somebody. I can't remember who it was. It was a big name. They pulled out last minute. Anderson Silva, the undisputed 185 former king, steps in. They're in Australia, I believe. Or no, it was Las Vegas. Sorry, yeah, UFC 200 was in Las Vegas. DC basically just wrestles him down, gets the win, and then he fights his next match, Buffalo, New York, UFC 210 against Anthony Rumble Johnson again. Rumble cracks him in the very first minute of the very first round. And DC said before, he's like, that's the hardest I've ever been hit. He goes, I knew immediately after I got clipped, I needed to get it down to the ground. He wrestles Rumble Johnson back down, ends up beating him the same way he did in the first fight. Rear naked choke. He remains the undisputed light heavyweight champion. And then Jon Jones comes back. It's July 29, 2017, Anaheim, California. The return of Jon Jones. They fight. It's an amazing fight. I was watching it earlier. That's the best DC has ever looked. That's the leanest has ever looked. He was confident. He was fiery. He was hungry. There was no love lost between these two guys. Jon Jones hates DC. DC hates Jon Jones. It was an incredible fight. Jon Jones was winning DC was winning the exchanges inside. Deep uppercuts, good dirty boxing. But DC's even said it. Jon Jones in that fight, at distance, it was like a buzzsaw trying to get in there. He was landing good front kicks, good teep kicks to the body, and every time DC tried to close the distance with his low guard, dipping in, and Jon Jones was making pay with knees, elbows, everything inside. And DC even said it. He was like, man, it was just like a buzzsaw trap trying to get in there and close the distance. And he goes, and every time I got in there, he'd push off, make space, and then I had to do it all over again. And then it ended, I believe, in the third or fourth round. Jon landed a head kick, put DC on chicken legs, back tripped him when he was trying to flee off the cage, and then finished him on the ground. But then, as we all know, Jon Jones popped for PEDs that fight, so it was ruled a no contest. So Jon Jones gets suspended again. DC holds the title. He beats Volkan Ozdemir, who was the number one contender, and he moves up to heavyweight. Beats Stipe in the first round by KO. Defends his title, his heavyweight title, against Derek Lewis by submission rear naked choke. That was November 3rd, 2018 in Madison Square Garden, New York City. And then we all know his last two fights were against Stipe. Stipe knocks him out, finishes him in the fourth round. He was really digging to the body. Gets the better of DC, beats him. They run it back for the rubber match at UFC 252. And in Las Vegas, Stipe wins again. But that's the rundown of DC's career. Jon Jones, man, what an animal, dude. That guy, he just always finds a way to win. And you can say what you want about him, about his personal issues, and you might not like him for the way he is or what he says. And I'm not going to lie, that dude is always online. He can't help but talk about himself, and anything that anybody says about him, he always has a reply. I mean, there was a big thing going online a few months ago when he was in Thailand doing the show with Nate Diaz, and people are like telling him that he was afraid to fight Tom Aspinall, and it's like, dude, why are you even reading the comments? You're the champion of the world, heavyweight champion of the world. And he's like replying to everyone, like every single person that said anything to him. He couldn't help it. It's like he couldn't help himself. Like, he can't get out of his own way. And it's just wild to me because he's literally the GOAT. He's the best to ever do it. And so I want to go down his lead up to that fight for the DC 2 fight. So he comes in, he makes his debut at UFC 87, August 9, 2008, against Andre Guzmão. Beats him by decision, right? UFC 94, Stephan Bonner, who lost in the very first Ultimate Fighter against Forrest Griffin, but they fought such an amazing fight. They did so much for the sport that Dana White gave them both the contract that night. Stephan Bonner was actually on a good run, and he runs into Jon Jones. Jon Jones, you see the highlights where he hits him with a beautiful lateral drop, ragdolls him around, gets the win, unanimous decision. And this is all the way back January 31st, 2009. His next fight, Jake O'Brien beats him, submission, guillotine. And then the next fight was against Matt Hamill, the Hammer Matt Hamill, who was deaf. He was a deaf fighter. And I'm not bullshitting you. He was literally deaf. And it was on the Ultimate Fighter heavyweight finale. Jon Jones is dominating this fight. He gets the fight to the ground. He has Matt Hamill in a full mount position. He's landing elbows, and then he throws a 12-6 elbow, which now is legal. And so this is the thing that some of you guys, the new fans to MMA and UFC, they don't understand because you weren't around back then. So a 12-6 elbow is when you come straight down from your head, straight down, right? 12-6, like on a clock. He hit Matt Hamill with a 12-6 elbow, and he got disqualified. He was winning the entire match. If my memory serves me right, it was in the second round when he hit Matt Hamill with this elbow, and he got disqualified that fight. Now the rule's been changed, and I know Dana White's been trying to overturn that decision because it went down as a DQ, a win for Matt Hamill because it was an illegal shot. But Jon Jones, on paper, is not undefeated. Everybody wants to say he's undefeated, but he's not because he lost that fight via DQ. But since then, that rule has been changed, and you can now throw 12-6 elbows. That's what Diego Lopez did this weekend against John Silva. But this was back in 2009. So, man, that's like 16 years. And back then it was illegal. So that's a loss. You can try to change it all you want, but it's a loss. His next fight, he fights Brandon Vera. Brandon Vera was a really, really, really good light heavyweight when he first came in. And he actually won the, I want to say that he was an interim light heavyweight champion. But if he wasn't, I could be wrong. But after he left the UFC, he went to ONE FC in Indonesia, and he became the heavyweight champion over there. So Brandon Vera has always been a good opponent, but he beats Brandon Vera by TKO elbows. Next fight, August 1st, 2010, against Vladimir Matyushenko. He beats him TKO by elbows. Next fight, he fights Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader became the heavyweight champion at Bellator. He fought and beat the great late Fedor Emelianenko, the last emperor. He was the man, and he beat Fedor as the heavyweight champion in Bellator. But he beat Ryan Bader, and then he got the title shot against Mauricio Shogun Rua at UFC 128. Comes out the first 15 seconds. You'll never hear the end of it from Joe Rogan. He'll always say, what kind of wild man does that in your first title fight? And I believe he was only 21 years old when he fought Shogun. Comes out, flying knee right out of the gate. Ends up stopping Shogun. TKO. Becomes the youngest light heavyweight champion. Youngest champion in the UFC history. First defense against Quentin Rampage Jackson. Beats him rear naked choke. Next fight, fights Lyoto Machida, beats him guillotine choke, standing up against the cage. That fight, no one would ever forget because he had Lyoto Machida in the guillotine against the cage. The referee stops it. Jon Jones lets go, and Lyoto Machida just falls down like a folded chair. Folds up. Next fight, former training partner, Rashad Evans, beats him unanimous decision. Next fight, UFC 152 fights Vitor Belfort, the Phenom. Vitor was one of the youngest heavyweight champions back in the day, and then he became a light heavyweight champion when he beat Randy Couture. This was all TRT Vitor when he was juiced up to the gills, man, like just swolled up, big Vitor. Fights him. Vitor actually got Jon Jones in a straight arm bar off his back. Jon Jones' arm looked like it was going to snap at any moment. It was so deep. But that tells you the type of dog you're dealing with when it comes to Jon Jones. He never tapped, never even thought about tapping. I think he would have let his arm break and then he'd try to pass and finish Vitor. He gets out of it, ends up getting Vitor down, and beats him by a Americana key lock submission victory for Jon Jones. That was at UFC 152. UFC 159, he fights Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen, I believe, was a short notice replacement. He beats him TKO, and the legend just keeps going. Jon Jones, the legend, the man. Then he runs into Alexander Gustafsson. I mentioned it before with the DC. He didn't train for this fight. He barely showed up, and he still found a way to win. I mean, the guy was probably out there drinking, doing blow for 3 weeks before the fight. He even admitted it. And he is getting his ass whooped by Alexander Gustafsson the first 2 rounds. Finds a way to win. I mean, the guy is just a born winner. He just finds a way to win. Beats Alexander Gustafsson by unanimous decision. Next fight, UFC 172, Glover Teixeira beats Glover Teixeira by decision. And then you come to the DC fight, the very first fight when he fought DC at UFC 182, January 3rd, 2015, Las Vegas, Nevada. Beats DC. Decision. That's the fight where DC just could not live with himself anymore. He's like, he knew he had to do more. He knew he had to be better. Jon Jones, after that fight, that's when the accident happened. He was drunk, he was driving, hit a pregnant woman, tried to flee the scene. I believe he got arrested. He got suspended by the UFC. And then he was out for a while, and that's when DC becomes the new light heavyweight champion in his absence. Jon Jones comes back, fights Ovince St. Preux at UFC 187, gets a unanimous decision, and then they run it back with DC for DC Jon Jones 2. And this is the fight that made both of them legends because DC was the best DC that night. Jon Jones looked incredible. He ended up knocking out Daniel Cormier in the second or third round. Head kick, put him on wobbly legs, finished him. But then afterwards, it came out as a no contest because they found PEDs in Jon Jones' system. Then he goes on, beats Gustafsson, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes. And the Dominic Reyes fight I've mentioned before, a lot of people thought Dominic Reyes won that fight. But, you know, Jon Jones just always finds a way, man. He always finds a way. He took 3 years off, more than 3 years off, until he came back and fought Shogun for the vacant heavyweight title of the world. And a lot of people are going to say a lot of shit because in those 3 years that he was out, that's when Francis Ngannou made his run. And Francis was open to the fight. And Jon Jones didn't want that smoke at the time. And it wasn't until Francis Ngannou left when Jon Jones came back. And that's when Jon Jones fought Cyril Gane, won the title. And then he's gone for another whole year. Fights Stipe, who really didn't want to fight anymore. I thought he was done after the Ngannou fight. In the DC fight, the guy's a firefighter. He was working full-time at the firehouse. They bring him back after, I think he was already out 4 years. Jon Jones had barely been out a whole year after he beat Cyril Gane. And then he beat Stipe. and then the whole madness between him and Tom Aspinall starts. But so the impact of the initial fight was Jon Jones showed that he was the greatest of all time. Even though it was ruled a no contest, DC showed that that was the best he could give, and he still couldn't beat Jon Jones. DC went on to become heavyweight champion. Jon Jones went on to become heavyweight champion as well. But there's always answers and questions there that need to be answered. I'm sorry. A lot of questions that need to be answered between both guys because DC stuck around too long, I believe, and he'll tell you the same. He should have retired after he won the title against Stipe the first time. And Jon Jones should have came back earlier and fought Francis Ngannou. And that's just the truth. Even though Jon Jones has relinquished the title now, and Tom Aspinall is the undisputed champion right now in the heavyweight division, Francis Ngannou is still the lineal heavyweight champion. He never lost his title. He went on to go box. Damn near beat Tyson Fury when he was the heavyweight king. Gets his ass knocked out by Anthony Joshua in the second round in the second boxing fight. Comes back, defends his MMA title in PFL. So he's still the lineal champion in the mixed martial arts world. So, you know, there's just a whole lot of questions that needed to be answered by both guys. But that's the effect that both these guys had in the MMA world. They were so polarizing, both of them together. Jon Jones, DC, the hatred was real. I think the hatred between these two guys was just as much, if not more, than the Khabib McGregor. And I only say that because Khabib is a very religious man, and he's willing to forgive, even if McGregor doesn't deserve it. But at least in Khabib's eyes, I'm not saying that personally. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I love Conor McGregor, but Khabib, I don't think will ever fully forgive McGregor for the things that he said. But as much as DC tries to be cordial around Jon Jones, you can still feel that tension and that hatred between the both of them. They still don't like each other. And in 10 more years, when they're both 50 years old, you might see a Tyson fight on Netflix where it's DC versus Jon Jones when they're both old men. And I'd still pay to watch it because they both hate each other. And if you ever want to see a great fight, it's when two guys just genuinely do not like each other. But that's the breakdown for that fight. That's the third fight on the list. Shout out Tyler again for sending me that list, and I really enjoy doing these. So that's it for this one, man. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. See you on the next one. Peace.